Remember, back in June, the president predicted unemployment would surge to 10% before the end of the year. Now, that number stands at 10.2%. And earlier today, the White House press secretary said the administration expects a possible increase when new figures come out tomorrow. Now, Christina Romer is the chair of the White House Council of Economic Advisors. She joins us now from the White House. Dr. Romer, great to have you back with us. How bad do you think it could be tomorrow? I mean, where do you think the unemployment rate might hit?
Oh, I think it's not a good idea to speculate. I will certainly tell you we'll be watching it very closely, and I will certainly tell you the market expectation is for the unemployment rate to stay roughly flat, but we'll certainly be talking about it tomorrow morning.
But it still paints a pretty ugly picture of the jobs market, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, I think, I was just pulled out of a session at the President's Job Summit because precisely this recession has been so deep and so particularly hard on the labor market that even as we're starting to grow again with GDP, what we know is that we still have a big jobs deficit, and that's really what the President was talking about when he said we need to take every responsible action that we can to put those millions of Americans that are still out of work back to work.
So what is it that can be done about this? I mean, you wrote an op-ed piece in the Journal yesterday with a couple of suggestions, but what are you hearing today that you think are the best suggestions for increasing or adding jobs here in the U.S.?
No, well, we've certainly, there are lots of sessions going on, lots of very concrete, very good ideas. We know there's a session on infrastructure spending that I believe even the President was going to stop by, and, certainly talking about that as a possible job creator. I was in a session talking to businesses about what kind of incentives would help them to invest and to create jobs, and I heard some good ideas about how perhaps cutting some of their taxes on new hires could spur them to do more hiring. I heard some suggestions about how useful the net operating loss tax provisions in the Recovery Act had been to businesses, and hoping that might be expanded. So there were lots of important ideas. I know there's also a session on all things green and what can we do to jumpstart the green energy sector, maybe something like a cash for clunkers for retrofit products.
Dr. Romer, let me jump in because ideas are certainly good, but if I'm out of work, I don't really need ideas. I need a job right now. So how quickly are initiatives going to come out of this job summit, and is it going to cost taxpayers anything to get this done?
So certainly, the Job Summit is a stage in this process. From the day the President took office, we have been thinking and working on jobs. We have earlier this month worked with Congress on some unemployment extensions, on the new homebuyers tax credit extension. So absolutely, I'd expect actions to be coming in a steady flow. And as the President said, he's not interested in a year from now. He wants jobs now. The other thing, though, that he has said is that resources are limited. And so we're looking for cost-effective solution.
I have to say, Dr. Romer, each of the initiatives that you mentioned costs money, and it all is about spending money, I'm guessing, on top of the $787 billion that you already had approved for things like infrastructure spending. So how much more do we need to spend?
So I think that's certainly something to be worked out, discussed with Congress. I think we're going to be focusing on programs. What are the cost-effective programs that could really have a big job bang for the buck? The President is absolutely committed to doing anything that we do in a fiscally responsible manner. So he is going to be thinking about how do we pay for these things over the longer term? How do we put together a budget plan that puts us on a path? And that's absolutely going to be a priority as well.
But let me, Dr. Romer, the thing again is, I think as a taxpayer, I'm worried about how this might cost. I mean, the stimulus program, just doing some math here, supposedly that program has created about 600,000 jobs. If you break it down, the cost per job is as much as about $250,000. Now, the per capita income is around $45,000. So help me out. That math doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Oh, you've got to be so careful. First, I'm going to dispute your jobs number. We just had the study from the Congressional Budget Office that said as of September, the amount of money that we'd spend, which is a whole lot less than the full 787, has added something like 1.6 million jobs. And that's certainly much more consistent with the kind of numbers that we've been estimating at the Council of Economic Advisors. So we think we're absolutely getting a good job bang for the bucks that we've
How much do they cost then? Each job, how much do they cost with those numbers?
So, when the Council of Economic Advisors did a study, so, we think that somewhere in the order of maybe 90,000 per job year is the bottom line number for the stimulus package. I can tell you a lot of the things being talked about today have even a lower cost per job, and I think that's going to be something that we're absolutely looking for. The other thing I've got to emphasize is there is nothing worse for the budget deficit than an economy in free fall. That if you can get people back to work and back to paying taxes again, that's a fundamental part of why we're having a budget problem now. And the more we can jumpstart this economy, as the president said, bring the private sector back in from the sidelines, that's ultimately going to be incredibly important for getting our budget under control.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Christina Romer, thank you so much. We appreciate the time that you find for us, Chair of the White House Council of Economic Advisors.